Alrighty, welcome back to another edition of News for Normies. I think that's what I'm going to start calling this from now on. It's a much shorter title and gets right to the point. With getting right to the point being said, I'm going to get right into some news from this week. So, I'm sure everybody that's watching this has probably heard about all the protests and stuff going on college campuses. I'm going to leave that to the end of this because there's a lot that I want to say about that. But to start, this is probably some stuff that you didn't hear about. A Democrat congressman from southern Texas by the name of Henry Cuellar, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Mr. Henry and his wife have both been indicted on charges of bribery. That's pretty bad considering he's a federal level politician, but if they got one, then there is about 400 and something more that they probably need to arrest on that too. The Daily Wire has issued a gag order on Candace Owens, and some are speculating it is because of her criticism of Ben Shapiro and co-owner Jeremy Boring since the Hamas attack on Israel back in October of last year. She has had her own personal beef with Ben Shapiro since then, and ever since her contract expired with the company, things have been kind of getting a little heated between Candace Owens and the rest of the Daily Wire people, it seems. So we'll see what happens with that. Not sure why that gag order's in place, but that's kind of my guess as well. With all of this pro-Hamas stuff going on across the country, a bill has been passed in the House of Representatives in D.C. that is being called the Anti-Semitism Bill. And while I agree with the sentiment of it, the actual meat of this bill is very unconstitutional. It goes directly against the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution because this bill states that any criticism of Jewish people or the country of Israel as a whole would that now be illegal. So this is thought crime and speech crime, which is in direct contrast with the First Amendment. This would mean that the Bible would be illegal because there are several verses of Scripture in the New Testament that talk about how the Jewish leaders at the time had Jesus killed by the Romans. And anybody that knows anything about the Bible, that's what happened. So the Bible would be illegal, and then subsequently the Quran would be illegal because, we all know that the Quran and Islam is not a book or religion of peace whatsoever. And we can get into a theological argument in another video. But, my point is that this bill is directly unconstitutional. So I would highly encourage anybody watching this to get a hold of their federal level representatives in the House and Senate and let them know that this is not okay and that they need to be voted out immediately. Speaking of gag orders, Donald Trump was found in contempt of court over his gag order in the New York case, and he was subsequently fined $9,000. I don't think he should pay at all, but should he decide to do so, I think he should roll up to the courthouse with wheelbarrows full of pennies and stand there and watch them count out the pennies to pay this off. I remember hearing years ago a guy did that at his local DMV, and they had to take it because it's illegal U.S. currency. Speaking of Donald Trump again, he is actually set to speak at an upcoming Libertarian Party conference. This is big news because the Libertarian Party has not been able to really gain a lot of ground in the U.S. Political system for a long time. And so this is going to boost the name recognition of the Libertarian Party and could possibly be a way for future libertarians to really get a foothold in politics, because this two-party system we have is completely broken, and at this point it's just pay to win, and we all know that. So something needs to be done to shake that up, and this is a good move. I don't think that the Libertarian Party as a whole is going to just fold into the ranks of the Republican Party, because they both have their differences, but this could be a good partnership for this upcoming election to at least get Donald Trump into the White House. With that being said, James O'Keefe posted a video recently where a guy that was allegedly a CIA contractor admitted that the CIA was undermining Trump before he was even elected and the entire time that he was president. To anybody that's been paying attention to news and politics for the last 8 years, we're all kind of sitting here thinking, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. But it's kind of good to get like some exact evidence of it now. That way something can be brought up in a court of law at this point. Before that, we didn't exactly have evidence of it, but now you have a guy that was a contractor saying, yeah, we did it. So will anything happen? Probably not. Time for some good news, though. As I said, there have been protests all across the country that have been labeled, pro-Palestinian, but make no mistake, it's just pro-Hamas protest. But among these protests that have been happening, there were some valiant men that stood up to do what was right. Some frat boys from the Pi Kappa Phi fraternity at the UNC Chapel Hill defended and held up an American flag that protesters were trying to tear down, and basically laughed in the face of these crazies while they were doing it. So that gives me some hope for the future, because they did something courageous in the face of something that could have been very detrimental to them, but they did it anyway. Because of this, the guys over at Drinkin' Bros podcast actually sent them several cases of their hard seltzer, Hard AF seltzer, as kind of a thank you for being just cool dudes and doing the right thing during that time. Subsequently, these guys started a bit of a domino effect, because I've been seeing more videos on Instagram and X of other frat boys in other colleges doing the same thing. So that gives me hope for the future, because they're counter-protesting these crazies and saying, we've had enough of your crap, guys. Go home. Go on. Nobody agrees with you. You're a small minority. Get out of here. So if anybody is watching this from UNC Chapel Hill or LSU, and you defended the flag and laughed in the face of these idiots, give me a like and subscribe down below the video, and let me know what you think, because or let me know what you have seen on the ground that people may not be seeing themselves just on the internet. More good news: police have been shutting down some of these protests at some colleges across the country, especially in Portland, Oregon, where 15 cop cars were burned down at their protest, because they're all against the cops. But when somebody comes in and does something they don't like, they're the first ones to call the cops. Liberal hypocrisy at its finest. The United States, speaking of hypocrisy, the United States is continuing to build a pier off of the coast of Gaza to deliver aid. But with it being that close to Gaza, personnel there are likely to be shot at by Hamas or other similar terror groups, because, those terror groups hate us and everything we stand for. So if you have military personnel, U.S. military people there, and they get shot at, they've already been given the green light to fire back, which could then initiate a bigger conflict in the region. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I would like to see Hamas just wiped off the face of the map. But the problem is that they integrate themselves into civilian areas so easily that it makes it almost impossible to do so. But speaking more about the U.S. government and their hypocrisy, they always talk about how we're gonna do this to get the American people back on track and blah blah blah. But meanwhile, they are continuing to spend our tax money with another foreign aid package of over $90 billion, all while our southern border is wide open and our people continue to suffer. Tulsi Gabbard was recently on Joe Rogan's podcast, and they were talking about the Maui fire that happened last year. And she was saying that there's been very little that's been done in the aftermath of that happening. And the people there got a one-time payment of $700 from the federal government, and that's it. Like, how is it that our federal government is more concerned about the borders of Israel and Ukraine and not the border of our own country and our own people here? That wildfire happened on August 8th of 2023, so it's not even been a full year yet. And yet our government is spending money overseas. Likewise, that train derailment that happened in East Palestine, Ohio, was very devastating to that local area and anybody that was downstream of that. But news has just been quiet about that ever since that happened. These are almost reminding me of the whole water crisis in Flint, Michigan. Did that ever get resolved? Like, I don't even know. Like, news about all that stuff has just gotten quiet. But, gotta help Ukraine because, like, it doesn't make any sense. So lastly here, many people have noticed that at all these protests across the country, these college kids, and I use the term kids loosely there, they're young adults, but these college students are all setting up camps and tents and stuff, and they're all the same exact tent. It is like 90% the same exact tent. It's like a green and grayish color tent that all these college kids are getting across the country. And some people are like, hey, how do all these college students get the same tent when, some of them are in New York, some of them are in, California, some of them are in, Denver or wherever else. It's like, it's because they are being organized by people behind the scenes. One of these organizations is the AFIR Foundation, AFR Foundation. And this foundation is a charity, and I use that in quotes because they are legally a 501c3 organization, but they give out charity money and stuff to like pro-Muslim causes across the country. And this organization, the AFIR Foundation, is funded heavily by the government of Qatar. So you have a Middle Eastern country that is a very predominantly Muslim country giving money to a Muslim charity organization here in the States that is then giving money and resources to protests all across the country. This is extremely dangerous and quite honestly should be illegal. It honestly should, because if anybody, and I know our own government is probably doing the same thing across the rest of the world, see, Ukraine in 2014 and how they led a coup against the government at that time, but this is just despicable to me. So, I need you people that are watching this to share this video with other people you know, especially if they've, been kind of, cursory watching the news and stuff and being like, what's going on with all this stuff? Well, here's your answer. The government of Qatar is funding a 501c3 charity organization here in the United States that is organizing these protests. That is exactly what's happening. So, that's all I've got for today. Trying to keep this under 20 minutes. I'm at about 15 and a half now. So, if you like this video, share it with somebody you know. Just share it on your own Facebook page or Twitter or Instagram or whatever, whatever you use. And let's get Donald Trump back in the White House in 2024. So, with that being said, I'll see y'all next time.